Welcome to at least the first ever formal Zoom conversation that we are having.
Yes.
I'm hoping we can make this conversation part reflection, in parts about hope, and in parts about uh, what we can do, to make this entire maybe the next decade more meaningful for young people. With that, I know you personally, so I totally skipped to the part about what this conversation should be, but I'm gonna ask you to introduce yourself. So,
Hi everyone, I'm Priyadeep, but of course I prefer that people call me PD. That's what I'm mostly known as. I actually started my startup, which was called Gyan Lab or Innovators in its later stages, in my final semester in Manipal, and I kept running that for a little more than 8 years. It was a terrific journey. Learned so much, did so much with young people. So in March 2019, we shut down. And in April, I joined this organization called GAME, which stands for Global Alliance for Mass Entrepreneurship. And I've been here for about a year and a half now. So that's me, Supriya.
let's talk a little bit about who you were when you were a student.
So what happened is once I landed in grade 9, 10, around that phase, I started disconnecting with learning pretty naturally. I mean, I wasn't very comfortable in the classroom. I felt that, it wasn't like I did not have enough of a voice in the classroom. I said, I'm not party to this. I'm not going to participate, right? I will be out. I mean, learning is about me. I'm at the center of learning, right? People like me are at the center of learning, and that should remain. That should never go away. That's the foundational principle of learning. I just felt like my voice was missing in the system. I mean, I had phenomenal teachers. I had teachers who encouraged me for everything that I did, right?
There seemed to be a lot of backing for you to make your own choices. What if every child had that choice? What would the classrooms look like?
If children were given more sort of freedom to design their learning process, they would do a far greater job than we have done in the last few decades. Through Innovators, in about 6 years, we worked with about 1.4 lakh children. What we did with creativity is just gave them open-ended questions. What if, as you said, right? One of the questions for I think students of grade 5 and 6 was design your own classroom, right? And like the answers were all over the place, right? So some of the most wonderful answers included that we want to get pets in our classroom. Can we get some more sunlight, please? Can I talk to my friends? Then there was other segment of kids. Now 70% of schools we work with were affordable private schools, right? The low income schools. And it said, can I get a nice complete blackboard in the classroom?
What can be the purpose of education now that so much about the world has changed?
I stood up at TEDx Bangalore 2 years back and I said this on that stage, right? We should just leave the kids alone. They have an absolute clear picture of what they want. And even if they don't, it's okay. It's not our place to tell them and school them and tell them what to do. And I think we need to shift away from that mindset. And I'm actually quite happy that current situation gives us that opportunity.
How do you think it would make the adults in the room feel? Because we're all sort of, even now, as a response to this pandemic, we're just trying to figure out, how do I not let go of this control that I have on my life, on my job, on my,
you need some sort of kind of controlling mechanism in a classroom, but it shouldn't be the central or the core of it, right? Learning is about being open, right? Learning is about being your like just to go your imagination, your mind, and be absolutely free. And yet all school learning tries to do is constrain. The construct is like this: the system would tell the school, here's what you got to cover, right? And the school would tell the teacher, you do this, right? And the teacher would go to the children and it would be like this, right?
You do this. Sure.
So top down.
Sure.
It's so top down. Now, let's say we reverse the process, right? So imagine that possibility. Because what's happening is the entire system is now being fear driven, top down fear driven, right? Yep. Bottoms up, curiosity driven. I think it would just work wonders, right? What if learning was so enjoyable that they wanted to do it? I think the negotiation is far more open, and the teachers will also find the right place in the classroom.
Yeah, I agree. What I'm hearing you say is that it has to start with adults trusting adults, and then adults trusting kids. So I want to talk a little bit about what would post-pandemic classrooms look like. right? The fear of the disease continuing to stay with us, um, the emotional hardships that young people, kids would have gone through. What can we then do um, as a response to that, knowing that they would come with that baggage of trauma, baggage of hardship when kids come back to our classrooms? um, what should we be saying to them?
I think this. So firstly, this amount of extreme urgency with curriculum and syllabus, etc., should just be put on the back burner. Other bit is on that massive other part of the country, a large portion of whom went to school to get that proper meal, right?
Yeah.
And for those people, I think it just took them back in time. Today, learning is not primary in their minds, right? They're looking at survival beyond
Yeah.
learning. But and then you want to add the burden of learning. Can
Yeah.
learning be that leveler there, right? If you want to sort of make learning available for all in the post-pandemic world, make it something that the kids truly enjoy. It needs to be overhauled today. I know a lot of people in India celebrated NEP, and they're going to curse me for saying this, but it's also like CC. It also has great goals and fantastic stuff. I mean, mm, I'm not, but moment it moves to execution, right? And
Yeah.
because of the willingness to go to scale right away without testing things out, we will
Yeah. Yeah.
again make the same mistakes, right? And it
Yeah.
will be another great failed experiment in this country. I
Yeah.
really hope that we can take a step back, understand how learning happens, but we're going to leave those millions of children behind who anyways did not have the right education, but now it's even worse for them. So I
Yeah.
would, and that sort of pains me, because it's not about quantity anymore, right? It's about quality of learning, and I think that just is in tatters. And I'm very afraid for the the low income families and the kids in those households as to what happens to them.
What you are afraid of, um, in some sense, resonates with me, because I keep thinking about a day where kids come back to classrooms and are pushed to learn more, and I'm afraid that um, it, in some sense this is no fault of theirs, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
That students to come back to to any load of learning, for me, seems like punishment.
Absolutely. Yes.
Which is why this what if dialogue feels important to me, because um, anything starts with awareness, right? So constantly be aware um, that something about them has changed, something about them would have changed, and to pay attention to that and to empathize, um, I feel would be a good start when we come back to, when the
Yeah.
schools reopen.
Yeah. Just let's listen. You know, so busy talking and not listening that we sometimes miss the voice of the most important stakeholder. Let's just listen to them. Let's just try and understand them. I saw Ken Robinson's talk, and may he rest in
Mm.
peace. But it was just so moving for me. It just gave me so much strength to believe that, hey, okay, if he's saying this, listening to children is important, and I would take his sort of word for it.
What do you think the purpose of education should be, at least post pandemic and at scale for a country as large as ours, which is as complex as ours? What should the purpose of education for us be?
Education is about you know is about place is about creating individuals who are confident enough that if you place them in a situation, they will know how to get out of it. I know there are just two like state country leaders who are millennials today, and these two guys are doing phenomenal, right? I mean, both of them are actually top notch leaders today, right? And it just shows that what the millennial and then Gen Z holds. I'm also a very deep believer that when Generation Z gets into places where things start to evolve and change, right, they would take far better sort of ways of doing things, primarily because they got exposed to a lot of things in life very, very early, right? And I think their
Mm.
ability to process information has become significantly better. And I think we should just try and see how can we just give them more space. all they need is a little bit more space, right? Not be controlled in their learning. uh, like, if somebody is not able to do well in math for 10 years, you will not push math to them. Child is giving you indication for a decade कि नहीं होगा, आप तभी push करोगे, नहीं तो इधर ही जाएगा, right? I will spend my money to get you admission in a place where you have to do math, right? So
Sure.
why? So I think we don't take historical cues. We don't learn from our past mistakes. We keep making them over and over again, and that's a sign of lack of education. So my hope is that the future generation is genuinely educated, and they know how to
Mm.
solve their problems in the best possible manner, and not the way we do it today.
One other thing that I also sort of want to recap, or this amazing tendency that we have was, oh, now that it's over, I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Right. So instead of sort of, boxing it inside and not talking about it, but to actually embrace it, to actually address it, and then sort of build on top of it. That's a takeaway for me from this conversation.
Nice.
I'm also excited about so many what ifs we discovered. So
We just need to remember that our children know what they need to do. I think we just need to give them space, and yeah,
yeah,
and listen and learn.
yeah, super. Thank you so much.